Hey there, BookTube. I've had a couple of requests online to do a library tour, so I'm going to show you some of my library and my collection since some people have asked and they seem to be interested. This is the first time I've ever done this, so bear with me. Happy holidays to everybody. On my Instagram, some people may know me as Corso999. YouTube, I'm obviously Flash. And people were asking to see my collection and my home library. So I'm about to do that. It's the first time I've ever done anything like this. So I'll take you through my collection and I hope you enjoy. Happy holidays, everybody. A happy new year. I hope everybody's happy, safe, and healthy and together with their families and those that they love. And thank you to the Bookstagram community for allowing me an outlet to share passion of ours. Great bunch of people on there, and I hope you enjoy. Thank you. So starting right here, in this barrister case here, I have all Stephen King early first editions. The earliest first editions that I have. I think the earliest one would be Firestarter, I guess. I do have a Salem's Lot, but we'll get to that in a little bit. So these are all first editions and some British first editions. Misery from the UK, different seasons from the UK, It, Skeleton Crew, and The Stand, and The Dark Half as well. Down here, I have the Dark Tower series. We'll also get to the Gunslinger. I do have a first edition of that, but that is separate. So here we have the Dark Tower first edition, and then the Gunslinger third edition, Drawing of the Three. Second edition, I'm sorry, that was the Dark Tower, Drawing of the Three, first edition, yes. The rest are all first editions and artist signed editions for Wolves of the Kala, Song of Susanna, and The Dark Tower. These are the trade editions that were released by Grant. I guess that was with a partnership with Viking at the time. I'm not sure. Next shelf down, I have True First Edition original paperback of The Running Man and True World First Edition of Riding the Bullet. Let me open this up here. That's The Running Man. Picked that up in Bermuda for, I think, $3. That's a pretty good edition for $3 in a bookstore in Bermuda. This is Riding the Bullet, True World First Edition. Limited edition, British edition of Revival. I think that's a facsimile signature of King's. This is the pop-up book, The Girl Who Loved Tom Gordon. Carrie, Pet Cemetery, Christine by PS Publishing. Cemetery Dances volumes, the artist editions from a Buick 8, Dr. Sleep, and Sleeping Beauties, and Insomnia by Mark Zeising. Secretary of Dreams, Volume 1 and 2, My Pretty Pony. This here happens to be when King released The Plant online. He serialized it and he had continued the story. I printed it all out on heavy quality stock paper and I had it bound by a local bindery. So there you go. I even put my own little, just the title page, and I put my own limitation page in there explaining that it's for my personal collection right there. So I have never read The Plant till this day, one of these days. But what bothered me is that King stopped it again because he felt it was regurgitating a Little Shop of Horrors. So he never finished it. So I hate reading a series that's not complete. Anyway, these are my Sun Tups. These are all artist editions, up to Imagica, the recent limited numbered edition of Imagica. This happens to be just the capped slipcase for the artist edition, which houses it very nicely. It fits very nicely in there, and I just like this cap slipcase better than the slipcase that the original Let the Right One In came with. So I put the artist edition in that limited numbered edition slipcase. But I had all the, well, I should say I had a lot more artist editions, but I have sold them. I just recently reorganized this room. And it's, anybody who collects books, they'll tell you it ain't easy. It ain't easy fitting, finding a place for everything, and how you have to think about how you're going to organize your books and your shelves. But I'll get to that in a minute. So basically what's down here is oversized editions that didn't fit on the standard shelves here. So I had to just put these in here. It's kind of a mishmash of various editions from Robert McCammon, War of the Worlds. Those are, well, this is Cemetery Dance, A Head Full of Ghosts by Paul Tremblay. Very good book. War of the Worlds, I believe that's Franklin Mint or Easton Press. I think it's Franklin, the Franklin Company. Richard Matheson, numbered limited edition, Hunger and Thirst. I Am Legend by, why am I drawing a blank? I Am Legend. Folio Society. Richard Matheson's I Am Legend Folio Society. Ghoul in the Cape, Josh Malerman. Another Josh Malerman, Inception, Gone Girl, Gillian Flynn, Cemetery Dance, tongue twisting here. Levidian Publishing, The Chill, and another Easton Press, I believe, or Franklin Mint, I'm not quite sure, of Mice and Men. Here I just have some old antique Bibles, some artwork my daughter did, various editions here of just historical books and my wife's gardening books up here. So as I said, I just reorganized everything, and basically what I did was took all Stephen King non-fiction books about King and whatnot, some screenplays, and I threw everything up on this shelf here. Here's some my daughter's shelf candy. My daughter is an art teacher, so she created some of this stuff back when she was in school. So I display it in here. This is 1, 2, I guess 1.5 shelves of organized crime and mafia related materials. Then we get into some entertainment, which begins with The Sopranos, and then a lot of other screenplays and television series, serialized screenplays and whatnot. I got a music shelf down here, and other entertainment, nonfiction, books, Star Wars. Down here, some nonfiction, history, motorcycles, anatomy, physiology, sharks, Kisstory, the rock band Kiss. And come up here, I just have a lot of shelf candy. This is a letter pressed Cormac McCarthy, the last paragraph from The Road. It was a broadside that was given as a gift by Paul Sumtup. I just stuck that up there. I had a whole separate section for Sumtup, but I kind of just decided to divide things up a little bit and place them differently. And the biggest thing that I did just recently is I alphabetized the main shelves. So starting with A up here and Anya Ahlborn, I got some Steve Alton, Andre Anson, and I went right across, so it doesn't stick to one shelf here. And I've never been one to, the display of my books was never a priority as much as the books themselves. I started collecting, and I was a huge collector of Stephen King. I wanted everything and anything that I could get my hands on. Um, and I did have a lot more than I currently have. I did sell a lot over the years, and what I have now is point, and I'm not willing to part with any of it. So we continue over here. Well, before I get down to the rest of these shelves, up here, what I consider, I know this is very controversial, but these are the Stephen King books that I cannot stand. No pun intended. I will never read them again if I ever read them at all. For one reason or another, they're totally and completely forgettable to me, boring, way too long, whatever. Insomnia, I can't tell you how many times I tried to read Insomnia. I did finally complete it. One time, one read, and it was torturous. Tommyknockers was okay. But as I said, for me personally, these are forgettable books. Totally forgettable. Fairy Tale was the recent one that I read. I still haven't read Billy Summers. I read 50 pages. He mentions Donald Trump 5 times in 50 pages, and I said, listen, I'm reading to get away from the nonsense in this world. I don't need to escape into a novel and constantly be reminded of what's going on in reality. So I read to escape reality, okay? So I shelved that book, and I said, enough. Had enough. Don't want to hear it. And that's where it's at so far. This is the only book that I have not read to date. But other than that, oh, and I'm sorry. Lissy's Story I listened to on audiobook, and basically couldn't even focus on the audio because I just found it so boring. I did not read Faithful because I'm not a Boston Red Sox fan. I could care less about the Boston Red Sox. So as far as I'm concerned, I'm a Yankee fan. So sorry, I have no interest in reading anything about the Boston Red Sox, especially when they beat the Yankees. But anyway, so back here now, we get into Harry Bosch, was really into detective procedurals. Michael Connelly was a big favorite of mine about 10, 15 years ago. Love Michael Connelly. Michael Crichton, some older horror here. Audrey Rose, The Entity. Nelson DeMille, I enjoy a great deal. A Meal to Die For. I met Joe Ganascoli from The Sopranos, and he signed this book for me at a book signing. Thomas Harris, first edition of Silence of the Lambs, first edition of Red Dragon, Hannibal, and Hannibal Rising. Thomas Olderhuvelt, Joe Hill. Joe Hill's really good. Really, really good. Young Stephen King. But if you really want to read the next Stephen King, Philip Fracassi. I'll get to Philip Fracassi in a minute, but Philip Fracassi. And we get down to Stephen King. All early edition, Doubleday, hardcovers. Up to the stand. So as I said, I have all first edition Stephen Kings with the exception of the initial 5 Doubleday books, except for Salem's Lot. As I said, we'll get to that. Then we get down here, Stephen King, Dean Koontz. We have more Dean Koontz, Dennis Lehane. I love Dennis Lehane. More detective procedural. I met Dennis Lehane, signed a number of books for me. He's awesome. I believe he's writing for TV now, so he hasn't released a novel in a long time. But I'm sure many people have seen Mystic River, Shutter Island, 2 awesome adaptations of his books, I'm sorry. Elmore Leonard, another writer that I love to read. And we got Robert McCammon, Cormac McCarthy, Christopher Moore, if you like some humor. Christopher Moore, trade paperbacks down there. Stuart Onan, Chuck Palahniuk, a couple of editions of James Patterson that I used to read James Patterson, but oh my God, he follows the same format, and he is just very redundant and repetitive in his formatting of his books, and it's bubblegum books, as far as I'm concerned. I had enough of James Patterson. I kept those three because they belonged to my grandmother, and one of them happens to be signed. Got some Ridley Pearson, some Ian Reid. I don't know if anybody's read I'm Thinking of Ending Things or Foe, and his recent one, We Spread. Very good books, very good books. This is the Club Dumas by Arturo Perez Reverte. Centipede Press will be releasing a limited edition of that, I believe in January or February. I am definitely going to get that. That's one of my favorite films starring Johnny Depp. It was titled The Ninth Gate, directed by Roman Polanski, and I love that film. If any book lover has not seen The Ninth Gate, you're not a real book lover. You got to see that movie. Then we got some John Saul, Alice Sebold, Peter Straub Ghost Story First Edition. Anything else down there? The Chestnut Man was really good. That was an adaptation on Netflix that I really thought was very well done. And then if you get over to here now, it's my Exorcist bottle of wine. I have yet to drink that. Here I have The Stand, graphic novels, Marvel, released by Marvel. And it's a very little book on erotica. There's 30 pictures in there, so I'm not going to open it up and show anybody. So these are some antique barrister cases that I got a while ago. And the problem with these barristers is that aside from smaller trade paperbacks, they don't allow you to display anything upright. So recently, when I redid everything here, I decided to create something different. So what I did was, The Exorcist happens to be probably my all-time favorite novel, or horror novel, maybe even my all-time favorite novel. I have the limited signed numbered edition of The Exorcist by Suntop, the artist edition, some books on possession, some paperbacks, Exorcist Candle. Here is the Folio Society edition of The Exorcist, the Gauntlet Press signed edition of The Exorcist, probably the only edition that I have that's signed by William Peter Blatty. His sequel, Legion, which I think is very good. Two of my favorite movies, actually, The Exorcist and The Exorcist 3 Legion. Here's the Blondin Briggs UK first edition and the US Harper and Row first edition, and this is the 9th configuration, and in a sense you could say that this is also a sequel of The Exorcist. Blatty has something, or I should say there was something that was coined, the phrase was coined, his trilogy of faith, which was The Exorcist, Legion, and the 9th configuration. And they all basically deal with faith in some way, shape, manner, or form. The next Stephen King down here is Philip Fracassi. His book, Boys in the Valley, was my all-time favorite book of 2022. I just finished reading A Child Alone with Strangers. Fantastic book. Definitely in my top 5 what I read this year. I have yet to read Gothic or Don't Let Them Get You Down, and I have The Fate of Nero. Boys in the Valley is down in this case here. Got some Jack Ketchum signed editions, and these are some of my Centipede Press books. Shirley Jackson, The Haunting of Hill House, House Next Door, Blood Secrets, Falling Angel. Excellent movie, excellent book. This was Millipede Press. This was actually, I believe it was a subsidiary, or before Jared Walters started Centipede Press, it was Millipede Press. I'm a little fuzzy on the history there. And this was my latest acquisition. Let's Go Play at the Adams. I just ordered the limited artist signed edition of The Long Walk, which he's going to be releasing the end of January of 23. So I'm excited for that as well. Down here, so what I kind of, in the back of my mind, I know this is a little morbid or a little strange, but I kind of said, if, God forbid, the house ever caught on fire, God forbid, knock on wood, My wife, my kids, my wife, and the pets were out of the house, and everybody was safe. I had time to run back in. This is where I'm coming, right here. This antique case right here, okay? So what I have here is, I'm going to try and salvage anything and everything I can out of here. So these are all limited signed, numbered editions, Suntup editions. Got Anya Ahlborn, The Wolfen, The Road, Butcher Boy, Red Dragon, Silence of the Lambs, Hannibal, Replay, Stephen King's limited edition of The Stand in the Coffin case, as it's coined the phrase. I have Centipede Press limited edition, Salem's Lot. Talk about a big book. Salem's Lot CD, Dracula. This is the first edition of Salem's Lot with the Father Cody Error. This was the Price Clip Dust Jacket, $7.95, and Father Cody. I picked this up in a bookstore, a couple of $100. I think it was $150, something like that. It's all beat up. That dust jacket is ripped to shreds. But I said, you know, just got to have it. Boys in the Valley. Philip Fracassi, Boys in the Valley. Love this slipcase. Paul Michael Caine did a fantastic job. I think that was Paul Michael Caine that did that. A lot of Pauls in the small press book community. Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Probably, as far as I'm concerned, my favorite numbered edition. As far as design concept and the display, I love The Exorcist. I almost dropped my phone. I love The Exorcist. That's probably my favorite, my number one all-time favorite, because of the story, obviously, and I love that design concept as well. But Charlie and the Chocolate Factory has it edged out. Fantastic book. I said the only thing that would have made that better would have been gold gilded edges all around the book. But I'm glad Paul Suntup did not do that, because literally my head would have exploded had that happened. I have Donald Grant Artist Edition of Desperation, Talisman, Suntup's Misery Artist Edition, CD, The Shining, Subterranean Press, I think that's Sub Press, The Shining, limited edition of Cujo, Firestarter, Dolan's Cadillac, personally signed copy of On Writing by Stephen King, signed to me, Christine, and the first edition of The Dark Tower, Blood Meridian, numbered edition signed, not by Cormac McCarthy, unfortunately, by Suntup, and trade edition of Cycle of the Werewolf and Filtrum Press Eyes of the Dragon, limited numbered edition. So that pretty much, so in here, what's in this case and up here happens to be my numero uno editions. If I had to get rid of everything and just keep these, I'd be content if I had to get rid of everything within the library. That's pretty much it. I do have some historical books up here, some old editions going back to the 1600s, 1700s and whatnot. And down here some children's books and Harry Potter books and so on and so forth. So that'll do it. That's pretty much it. Oh, there's a picture of me at the M Street steps in Georgetown. The Hitchcock steps from The Exorcist. That was about 23, 24 years ago. Oh, now I'm an old man. I don't think I'd be able to climb those stairs. Suntup edition. Limited. The lithograph of Christine. I own a 58 Plymouth. So love that photo. Love it. And this happens to be the entire story, Rainy Season by Stephen King. The entire printed in print form, which creates that portrait of Stephen King. So that'll do it. So any requests on any one particular book you'd like me to display a little more closely or show to you, please drop me a line. Like the video, and feel free to comment. And thank you for joining me on this little library tour. Happy New Year, everybody.